there, and welcome to another edition of A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm B.C. Cloutier, President of Action for Life, and this is my friend, Father Michael Orsi. Hello, Father.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Got Thanksgiving behind us.
Oh, yeah. I feel it.
Back to the grind tomorrow
Yeah.
morning, although Christmas is, 3 weeks away or something close to that.
Right.
I want to go into the Wayback Machine today, Father. Back to Vatican II, what at the time the nuns taught me was called the Ecumenical Council.
Mm-hmm.
Referring to that era, Pope John Paul said that the church and its members are obligated to inform the world of what is right and what is wrong according to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I think that applies to the crisis in Ukraine, Father, and I think you do too. And I'm just wondering, what is your take on this whole mess?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It is a mess. It's a very sad thing for me, and I think for all of us to say, well, you've had Russian troops coming across the border and to begin to try to take over or partition an independent country. We know that they already took Crimea back in, I think, 2014. They just rolled in and took Crimea. Now they are taking over the Donbass area. And when you look at the situation, it's not as simple as it may seem, because there are many people who are ethnic Russians who do live in those areas and still have loyalty to Mother Russia, all right? So when you ask them, what do you think? Would you like to remain with Ukraine, or do you want to become part of Russia? Some will say Russia, and some will say Ukraine, and some will say it makes no difference at all.
Right.
Yeah, it makes no difference at all. One woman said to me, they're just as crooked in Russia as they are over here, So it's not been a picnic over there for these people for a long time. And I think the real issue here is that people are being killed on both sides, and we cannot see what the outcome is going to be.
It seems to me that the U.S. gets involved, and I realize that we are technically not involved in the war.
Right.
And we certainly have lost none of our soldiers and sailors there. But we are involved in the war because we're writing massive checks. And it seems to me that the U.S., since, I guess, Korea, has a habit of getting into wars that we have no intention of winning.
It's called a proxy war.
Right.
It's called a proxy war. We are actually involved. I think that the billions that we have spent in Ukraine makes us participants in that war. And although we can say, well, there are no soldiers there, well, maybe there are, but they're just not in uniform. Okay? And we have advisors there. Now, look at we had advisors in Vietnam.
And that's how it all started, with advisors.
Advisors in Iraq, advisors in Afghanistan. And all of a sudden, you're up to your neck with the situation. So what is, as I said, what's the outcome going to be when you have a country that is itself divided between people who think, well, it's Russia, Ukraine, I'm Russian, I'm Ukrainian. What is the outcome going to be? And where do we draw the line and say, this is useless. This is a waste of money and a waste of human life. And I think that we're at that point.
It sure seems that way.
Yeah, because this could go on for years. And BC, I'm so sad that I have to say this. I think that there are people that want it to go on for years. The military-industrial complex in this country, these people are making a fortune on supplying weapons for Ukraine.
Right. We're sending the money to Ukraine, and Ukraine's sending it back to our military-industrial complex to make weapons that they're going to use. Yeah. And then they'll need more money.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we even had a very sad experience. Remember, when we exited Afghanistan, there were $80 billion worth of equipment that was still there
And we should have given to Ukraine. If we're going to leave it back there, you know.
$80 billion is nothing. Yeah, except the Taliban has it now, and they're using it. Either they're selling it to get money for themselves.
But we accomplished nothing. We were in Afghanistan for 20 years. People came home either dead or maimed.
Right.
I mean, very few of us don't know someone who wasn't somehow affected by the war in Afghanistan, and we accomplished nothing.
Nothing. So, you know, we are unfortunately participating in something that what's the end game? Is, you know, Putin going to say, okay, goodbye? I don't think so.
I don't either.
I don't think so. Or can we negotiate a peace? Now, let me tell you something, folks. Ukraine is even religiously divided at this point. They have the Ukrainian Orthodox Church that's connected with Russia, okay, the Russian Patriarch, and then there's the Ukrainian Orthodox Church that's connected with the Ukrainian Archbishop in Kyiv. Right. So these people who have the same religion, the same liturgy, basically the same church, they are also divided, and they're fighting with each other because they go to a church that belongs to Russia and the other one that has loyalty to the Ukrainian Patriarch. So the churches are divided up over there. Now, who else is making money off of this? I mean, maybe Zelensky has a little stash someplace.
It's not, as you know, because both of us have been in Ukraine at different times for different reasons. I mean, the corruption there is
unbelievable.
Is everywhere.
It's unbelievable. And, you know, we have our Congress now. I mean, I don't know where this is going to be when this show is aired. But, you know, fighting over how much we can or should give to Ukraine.
Or not give, as the case may be.
Exactly. And there are a number of politicians in this country that are saying, we have to support the Ukrainians. We have to support them. We have to give them money. And another group says, hey, wait, enough is enough. You know, we have a national debt that's still at $34 trillion now. We can't afford to do this. And is it moral? That's the question. You know, Scripture tells us what's right and what's wrong. Is it moral? Now, war is a tragedy. Is it always evil? No, it's not always evil. What got it started might be evil. What happens might be evil. But sometimes, in order to put down somebody who is evil, like Adolf Hitler, we had to go in there and get that guy out. I don't think we have that clear-cut situation in Ukraine. What we do know is immoral, though, is killing people needlessly.
Right.
That's immoral, and we're supplying them with weapons that cluster bombs, and they can go off, years from now, and they can hurt innocent people that are just passing by. It's still there. So that is immoral, and to me that's evil. And for a government, our own government, to continue to supply weapons and say, well, it's a moral cause. If you can show me what you expect the outcome to be, and that everything is fair and just with the people who live in Ukraine, and saying, this is what we want this government, and we don't want to live under Putin, well, show me, show me.
We'll be back right after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've always heard about Abraham Lincoln saying that America is the last best hope of the world. Keep that in mind. A lot of us these days do not appreciate our country or are letting ourselves fall short of what America is supposed to be and what America can be. We live in a society today which does not hold the same values that our founders had and what Abraham Lincoln held so dearly. Go back on history, see what they said, and to know who we are. Pass that on to your children. It is a matter of salvation, saving our country, and sometimes even means saving our souls, because America is a light to the world. Let us continue to pray for our country and to vote for those people who hold in their minds and hearts the vision of our founders, of Abraham Lincoln, and of Ronald Reagan.
Hi, I'm B.C. Cloutier, President of Action for Life. As you can imagine, producing this program is quite an expensive endeavor, and we would appreciate your contributions in any amount. If you'd like to support the program, please visit actionforlife.org and click on the donate button. Again, it's that simple, actionforlife.org. Thank you, and God bless. And we're back with a conversation with Father Orsi. So we're talking about the war in Ukraine, or it's not a war, is it? It's a police action or something, whatever.
Well, whatever they want to call it, innocent people are being killed.
That, I think, is the crux of the matter.
Right.
There are so many moral issues, and there are so many political issues. If indeed President Xi decides to invade Taiwan, evidently we are prepared to defend Taiwan.
Yeah.
We need some dry powder.
You believe that?
Well, I don't know, Father, but I
don't know either.
We need some dry powder. And now I'm reading in the press that we're sending so many weapons to Ukraine that our own defense contractors can't keep up with the demand. Just another issue, but the larger issue is the moral issue that you brought up, and that is people are being killed indiscriminately by both sides.
Sure.
And it seems to me that as Christians, we should not participate in that.
Right. You know, the Russian patriarch is saying that fighting this war is a good and noble thing. He is encouraging the war. That's the Russian patriarch. You know, Abraham Lincoln said, you know, both sides reading the same Bible, and they're coming up with different interpretations of the Bible in order to get God to seemingly back up their cause. And this is something that is tragic. Why? It makes a mockery of Christianity itself. It makes a mockery of Christianity.
Why do you say that?
Because if Putin's side says, the patriarch says, this is a good thing to do, and the other side says, the Ukrainian patriarch says, this is a bad thing to do, well, where do you go from there? Is it just up for grabs? Whoever has the biggest Bible wins?
Yeah.
No, it's just a terrible thing, and you're going to need some outside mediation on this. Now, the Vatican has offered to mediate, and so far they've been rebuffed by both sides. Okay, so what do you have now? You have Uncle Sam stepping in and saying, well, Putin is wrong, so we're going to give you, Zelensky, a whole bunch of weapons, and then, you blow up his people, and then Putin says, hey, I got friends in North Korea, I got friends in China, and you have these proxy wars going on, and they are endless. They're endless until people have it up to here and it becomes unpopular. That's what happened in Vietnam.
Right.
It became unpopular. The same thing with Afghanistan. It became unpopular. How could it be that a war could drag on as long as Afghanistan did, and all of a sudden, oh, yeah, we're kind of tired of this war now, and then we pull out like a bunch of idiots with our tail between our legs, and all of a sudden, all those lives that were lost, and I don't just mean American lives, terrible, but what about the lives of the people in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
What about those poor people? And what about where they are right now? They are still impoverished. The women are being abused in Afghanistan. The country has never recovered. The Taliban is brutal. And what good came of it?
Well, Iraq, same way.
Same way.
That we somehow think that we can impose democracy on societies that are not democratic. And, going back to Ukraine, I have met several Ukrainian people who were perfectly happy with communism.
Yeah.
They thought it was just fine. They had their little apartment and they got their $8 a month or whatever it was. And they thought that the communist regime was fine. And they think that things are kind of messy right now.
That's right. When I spoke to folks over there, both of us were over there. Some of the older folks, no, they like communism a lot better. I mean, folks, it was a disaster of a system. They had very, very little. But people also became very complacent and very lazy under that system. And hey, that's okay with me. Give me my 8 kopecks, rubles, whatever you have, and I'm okay. So communism is evil. I think that what we have to see though in the situation is this: that taking the situation as it is there now. It is a battle between the world powers. It's not just a battle with a little country. The little country is the pawn caught in between these powers. And, we saw what happened in, you mentioned earlier, Iraq. Now, folks, this is important. In America, trust is broken down. Okay, there's a breakdown in trust in America. A lot of it is because of the ruling class, because of government. We don't trust the government anymore. Do you remember with Iraq and George Bush said that they had weapons of mass destruction?
Yep.
All right.
That was the reason for going in.
For going in there. And what did they find? Nothing. There was no weapon of mass destruction. You took out Saddam Hussein. Let me be honest, folks. Saddam Hussein was a bad guy. He was not a nice guy. But he held things together over there. Once Saddam was removed, even religions suffered over there. Yeah. Persecution was, against the Christian churches. Saddam let those churches stay by themselves and made sure that they were safe. Now Saddam also kept Iran in check.
Right.
So now Iran is really taking over Iraq. Whose fault is that, folks? Is it the bad Ayatollah? No, the bad Ayatollah is a product of governments that lie. And unfortunately, you see, I got to say this, our own government is being caught in lies.
Oh, I think so. And I just saw a recent poll. I hope I get these numbers right. In 1970, 80% of the population believed that government was trustworthy. Right. Today, it's 20%.
Yeah.
80% of the people do not believe that we can trust our government. And frankly, I'm one of them.
Yeah. I mean, you just look back at the history of what's happened over these recent years, and you got to say to yourself, why should you trust government? And where's the money? Where's the money going? Well, somebody's making some big bucks on these wars.
No doubt about it. But it's interesting that there's a correlation there between a lack of trust in government and the unraveling of society as we knew it, and the lack of belief in God or a higher power. If we had missionaries go to some of these countries, they would convert people to a godly existence, and those people would follow the commandments and the word of God. But we don't have that. And of course, the communists, the first thing they do is eliminate religion.
Yeah, eliminate religion. You got to get God out of the picture because then there are no standards, right, and you can do whatever you want, which is exactly what they do. I mean, you don't fit into their plan, you're toast. You're gone. You're sent to a re-education camp, or worse, you're dead. But folks, we've got to be very honest with each other. Our country is in a precarious situation because once you lose trust in your government and in your leaders and in the media, we lost trust in the media too. There was a time that you'd watch the news and you say, yeah, that's true. Now it's commentary on what some liberal elites think is the right thing to do and to try to turn the country in a direction that they think the country should be turned into. So I'm very, very concerned about what's going on in our own country with the media and with the politicians.
Well, when I look at somebody as wealthy as George Soros, and we pick on him a lot, but he deserves to be picked on, funding local district attorney races, spending millions of dollars to get people like that bozo Alvin Bragg elected in Manhattan.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with the system.
Right.
Because Soros presumably has no dog in that fight. He's just there to try and change the whole complexion of our political system.
Right.
And that's just not right morally. It's it may be legal, but it's not morally right.
Yeah, I think the plan is to go toward globalization, one world government, and that's why we even have the situation at the border where people are just pouring into this country to make it just one country.
Right.
That there's really no boundaries anymore, and is that what the elites want? And how much longer can we tolerate something like that before we do lose our identity as a country? And I think we're at that point now where we have to question ourselves saying, are we being protected by the government or are we being used and abused by the government?
I think it's the latter, Father. We'll be back right after this. Action for Life is proud to sponsor a conversation with Father Orsi. Action for Life is an all-volunteer, pro-life, interfaith ministry that's focused on the sanctity of life from conception to natural death. In addition to sponsoring this TV program, Action for Life provides financial support and life assistance to any woman who wishes to carry her baby to term in anticipation of an adoption. Action for Life also provides financial assistance to a variety of pro-life organizations, including maternity homes, pregnancy resource centers, anti-human trafficking agencies, and sidewalk advocates, but to name a few. Please consider making a donation so that we can continue in the fight to save preborn babies. You can donate online at actionforlife.org. Thank you and God bless.
Hey gang, I know a lot of you sometimes can't watch all of our episodes of Action for Life. However, we have a solution for that. All you have to do is go to YouTube and search for Action for Life Florida. And you can catch up on all the shows, and guess what? Extra added bonus, you get to hear my weekly homily. So, YouTube and you make a fine couple.
Welcome back to A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm B.C. Cloutier. Before the break, Father, we were talking about our government and, well, let me just put it this way. My own personal opinion, the game in Washington is being played by 535 people. It's a rigged game. It doesn't matter where those individuals are on the political spectrum. They're making a fortune, and they are they're conducting themselves in a recalcitrant manner because it keeps them in office and it generates money.
Woo! BC, you put it in the eyes right on the line. But
I get some letters about this one, Father.
Well, I think you're basically correct. And we talked about this once before, but we have to begin to consider term limits.
Yeah.
Because once somebody gets to Washington, let's face it, the allure of power and money is going to influence practically any human being.
And they spend too much time raising money so they can get reelected rather than doing the country's business.
Exactly. And you have to begin to ask yourself, too, why are so many of those 535 anxious to raise the debt? We talked about $34 trillion. Why do so many want to continue the war in Ukraine and not knowing what the end result is going to be? I don't think any one of them can make a prediction and say, yeah, we're going to be in this war for another year or two and we're going to make Ukraine safe for democracy. It ain't going to happen, folks. Zelensky is not safe for democracy because he's closed down any church opposition that is being portrayed in Ukraine. He's closed down opposition newspapers and he closed down oppositional media. So what are we talking about here? A little dictator?
So he's as bad
Charlie
as
Chaplin.
He's as bad as the other side.
Exactly. So what's Congress, fiddling around with this for? What is in it? And, they're supposedly taking care of their constituents. But even when they get out of Congress, what happens is they become what? Lobbyists,
cabinet members. They run bureaucracies.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
No, I mean, we talked about, euphemisms and drugs and all that stuff. When John Boehner was Speaker of the House, he was against Marijuana. Oh, yeah, new name for marijuana. It's not marijuana. It's cannabis, folks.
Right.
Cannabis. And it's to help people who are in pain. Well, I don't know. Doctors have to answer for that one. He gets out of Congress and he becomes a lobbyist for
The cannabis industry.
I mean, what are we dealing with here? I mean, I had a professor once, he says, who is kidding whom? He came in one week and he said, gentlemen, you can't fall off the floor. We're on the floor. He came in a week later, he goes, gentlemen, I was wrong. We fell through the floor, we're down the basement. And that's where we are right now. And I dare say, if you would, question your congressman about these issues, I am sure that they could give you, I'm not sure. They'll give you a bunch of gobbledygook. You don't even know what they're talking about anymore. And why do they vote a certain way? And, this show is going to be a little bit dated, but, why was, Kevin McCarthy ousted from the speakership?
Right.
Why? What was there to gain by that? And, Father O still doesn't really understand why that happened. I don't.
Well, by the time the show airs, we will know more because we tape about a month in advance. But, at this point, there is chaos in Congress.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Republicans have done themselves any favors.
I don't think so either.
I mean, I realize that McCarthy, had to make a deal with the Democrats. That's politics, folks.
That's right.
It's about deal making.
Politics it's the art of the doable. It's what you can get done. McCarthy didn't make a bad deal. Believe me, I wish, that we didn't have to give as much as the Democrats, wanted for the budget because the budget's too high. But he had to do what was doable, and it still had to go to the Senate. And then the Senate could,
Right.
fiddle around with it. Look, you got to do what you can get done.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Folks, look, we're in trouble. The country is in trouble. I think that what we have to do is begin to realize that we as individuals have obligations to say and to do the right thing. I can't give you a national plan that comes out of the Bible. But what I can tell you is this: you have to do the right thing and you have to vote the right way. And to be aware that just because somebody is holding high office, it doesn't mean that they have your interest or the country's interest at heart.
Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again next week, same time, same place, for a conversation with Father Orsi. Until then, have a great week and God bless.